All right, let's do this. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to another edition of the Uper Farmer Cigar Deck Talks. Back on the deck. Feels so good. Later, though, than I wanted. The sun is setting quick, but it's kind of symbolic for what this episode is going to be about. Before we get too stuck in on that, what are we smoking, what are we drinking? The Come On Focus Camera by Alex Bradley, Trinity, Native Cameroon. It's kind of a fun shaped cigar, actually. Kind of like a rhombus. It's not a circle, it's not a box press. It's almost a triangle. Feels like a classic. Oops, as a triangle as I break my beer. The beer tonight, Founders Backwood Bastard. That's probably going to spray all over the place since I dropped it. Has it been bad? Oh, no. I figured I'd have an eruption on my hands, but not so much. Looks like a good red ale. Not much of a head on it. Low on carbonation. I kind of expected it to more explode on me. It's not bad. Let's see, is this anything fun? Oh, aged in bourbon barrels. Okay. Just like many things, aging that in a bourbon barrel did not do it any favors. I really wish some of these brewers would stop doing that. The barrel does not help their product whatsoever. What are we talking about tonight? Again, happy EMS week, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're all getting celebrations out there, getting your just desserts, your appreciation, your admiration. Let's lift this up a little bit. I don't think you guys really want to look at that railing. Yeah, why don't we do that? This will probably turn out to be a really crummy sound since it's a little higher up, but why not? A little view of the field over there in the setting sun. You can still hear me? Yeah, let's see if you can hear me. I might talk up a little bit to get a little more volume. The mic is now a good foot away from me. Let's talk about more downsides of EMS. You know what? I'm not going to risk it. Let's drop this down just a little bit. Sorry about this. Sorry, folks. I'll meet you in the middle. Half the rail, half not. The downside of EMS. The dark side of EMS. You see people on their worst day. Their absolute worst is when you have to be your best. And sadly, people's worst become your everyday. You do become hardened. You see some people you would not, you judge people a lot more, and that's a good way of putting that. You see your view of the world goes south. You have to deal with death, which actually, funny story, not that bad. Dealing with death is actually on the easy end of the spectrum, especially with older patients, the senior citizens and whatnot. Now, death of someone who's younger, especially children, that can be really rough on you. That's stuff you're going to have to see. You're going to have to deal with facing your own death, being on the rig, and knowing that you could die. This could be your last day. You gotta deal with that. You have to deal with drug addicts. You have to deal with people who, at one point, their family will tell you they had everything going for them. They had life by the balls, but they got into drugs, or they met a girl or met a boy who dragged them down, and now you're giving them reversals for some overdose they had, or dealing with their psychological problems, or whatever the case might be. You see true poverty, true suffering. You're the one who has to be there and find out that that kid was being abused, or that woman was raped, or maybe that man is contemplating suicide. You have to be there for that person who's, the doctor told them all you need to do is lose some weight, but never gave them any pointers on how. Just sent them off into the world after giving them their diagnosis and give them the obligatory, here's what you do for it, but not really explaining what to do for it. People who want to change, addicts, alcoholics, who really desperately want to change, want to do better, but just can't. The bottle or both bottles, either the alcohol or the pills, are just too much. They can't stop themselves. You'll see stuff on the rig that'll haunt you for the rest of your life. I haven't been actively on a rig for, about 5 years now. And as it says in Bring Out the Dead, those ghosts don't go away. They're still with me. They're still there. They wait for their opportune moments to rear their heads, to have a flash of a call where you couldn't do anything right, didn't do anything right, messed up, thought you did everything right. Or you made all the right calls, but the person died anyway, and it leaves you questioning. Could you have done better? Should you have done better? To sit back and wonder all the time, could I have done that differently? Should I have done that differently? Sure, you'll tell yourself, you'll tell others that, I put it out of my mind after a while. Bullshit. You don't put it out of your mind. It'll always be there, always nagging you. Don't get me wrong, sometimes that can be very motivating. It can push you to do better. That's actually how I became better with kids and OB patients. I had a couple of patients early on when I was an EMT, and I realized I didn't know crap comparatively. I was insufficient. So I dived into the pediatrics and dived into the obstetrics. To the point it became one of my strong suits. It became one of the things I was really well suited for. The more stories I could tell and fill this video hours worth as the sun sets, talking about horrors that no one should ever see. Human bodies mangled and contorted into weird positions. People let themselves go to the point that they're physically decaying their body. They have rot going on. Families that I'm sure at one point swore they love each other, trying to kill each other or harm each other or use one another for their psychological issue. Treated a lot of them. The Munchausen syndrome, treated more than my fair share of those, I'll be honest with you. Where a parent intentionally makes their kid sick for attention. Treated too many of those. One is too many, obviously, but when you're really good with kids and you seem to get a lot of pediatric transfers, you raise a lot of red flags. Doesn't make you very popular. But when you're right, it chews you up. It's weird, actually. I've reported people, and I just pray I'm wrong. I pray I'm wrong, even though I know that when I reported, no one else had. And that child is now in a better place, but I wish I was wrong. Mostly because I don't want to believe that people can be that evil. Can do that to a child. Where you intentionally make them sick, give them the wrong medications, or injure them intentionally. Make them believe they're sick. Use the power of persuasion, the power of suggestion. That one burns at you. It burns at me also when you have people, you're like, how do you not know any better? Back before it was a thing, where we widely learned about it, it was required CE, I know I treated a bunch of people who were being human trafficked. I know one I identified accidentally that was being human trafficked by her grandmother and her aunt, great aunt. His grandmother and aunt, yeah. His mother-daughter was with their granddaughter. Yeah, they were holding her, what was he? He was two 5-year-old hostage. And they said that if she opened her mouth, they were going to kill her son or harm him. And she luckily was brave and demanded that her son came into the hospital with her. I tried to convince her not to. We tried to leave kids in the care of what appeared to be at, relatives. But something just didn't add up. That red flag went off. The red flags went up. The bells in the back of my head. And when they refused I requested twice. The first request they denied, which is pretty typical. The second request I asked again, and they denied it. And something just wasn't right. So I got on the radio and got cops and said there's a kidnapping in progress. Cops show up, kid's produced, and the mom of the kid just spills it all out. Says what's going on, that she's been kidnapped, been held against her will, made to do things that she didn't want to do because they were forcing her. They were using her kid against her. Mind you, this was before any training. I didn't know what the hell to even call it. Sitting there typing my report, I'm like, well, I mean, she's not really kidnapped because they'd let her go. I mean, she's been extorted. Lo and behold, it was a human trafficking case. I didn't have a term for it. It didn't fit the classic stereotype that I was taught. We are all taught. No one was chained to a wall. There was no chains involved. No one in a shipping container or behind bars. The woman could leave at any time. It's just if she did, they were going to hurt her son. So it was extortion. Threats of violence. Yeah. It's dark on EMS. You definitely get a less than sunny disposition for your fellow man. You don't trust people. I don't. There are very few people I trust in this world after the stuff I've seen. People who I'm sure would swear up and down they never would do that, not in 1,000 years. But then they did it. It's kind of sad. One of the things that's really jaded me in EMS, and my wife constantly talks to me about this, is that I'll walk in a store and I can do field diagnosis right then and there. That person has emphysema, that person's diabetic, that person's on cocaine, that person's on meth, that person has a yeast infection, that person is possibly suicidal. Don't even have to talk to them. Just walk right by. Do a walk-in assessment, they call it. You get that way after about 5-10 years in. You can do your walk-in assessment. Just see people, you know what's going on medically for them. Tell you what, you're not very popular. You're not very popular when you know that someone's son-in-law is addicted to pills. You're not very popular when you tell people that, you know what, if your elderly grandmother or whatever the relation might be, if they don't do something or go see a doctor, they're probably not going to live to see the new year. It's amazing you tell people that stuff, even with that medical assessment. Well, what do you know? You don't know anything. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just an ambulance driver. True story. I am. Doesn't mean I don't know what I'm talking about. It does hurt. You make a lot of enemies having that much medical training and know-how. You'll see that family members only call you when someone's sick or injured. I know it's true in my family. The only time I hear from most of my family members is someone sick, injured, going through surgery, or has a mysterious disease they're afflicted by. And they rack my brain. And of course, it's awkward. They don't call any other times. Of course, I'd call them out now. Who's injured? Who's sick? Well, hello to you too then. Okay, well, you wouldn't call unless someone was injured or sick, so what's going on? And then they tell me who's injured or who's sick or what's the problem or the medical test that came back wonky or whatever it might be. And then I've served my purpose. They hang up and maybe say some pleasantries, ask about my kids or the weather or whatever else. And then they hang up. Message delivered. Task completed. There are dark, dark times in EMS. I'd love to sit here and tell you it's all unicorn shit and rainbows. It's not. It is dark. It's depressing. As I've said in other videos, you need to be a person of faith. Your faith will get you through it. If you're not, the profession will chew you up and spit you out. You'll take what little sanity you have and crush it into oblivion. I've known a lot of providers who have either attempted suicide or have successfully carried it out because the job got to them. The life got to them. They looked around and all they saw was the bad in the world. Random accidents or random things happening to good people. That one hurts. That hurts, but if you have good faith behind you, good solid belief system, it'll get you through. Because as they again say in Bring Out the Dead, 80% of your skills are only used on 20% of the calls. You don't save a life that often. Saving a life is far and few in between. But when you do walk on cloud 9. Your feet don't feel like you can touch the earth. You're so high on the emotions and endorphins. Does that make up for it? Does that make up for all the damage and the disease and death and fear you have to face? Hell, I even talk about diseases I've faced. Wonder if I brought home viral meningitis to my family, or bacterial meningitis, or bed bugs, or hepatitis, or AIDS, or God knows what else I've been exposed to. Swine flu, avian flu, H1N1 days. I almost got a hotel room because we were exposed to so much disease. If you're getting into EMS, watch this video. Definitely double think, rethink that. You will see the worst of the world. You will see the worst a human body can go through. And your job is to treat it. Your job is to be there to make it all better. Your job is to not internalize it, but you will, to a degree. So what do you do when that happens? Hopefully you have good support structure and good faith, because that'll bring you out of it. That'll save you. Anyway, folks, this is getting dark literally outside and getting kind of in that depressing mode. So I'm going to sign off for now. Thank you for joining me here on EMS Week. Keep watching for the next episodes. Coming up here very soon, I get to make my decision. Am I staying in? Let my license lapse. Anyway, hope you all stay safe out there, and we'll see you on the next one.